Wasabi homies, it's your homegirl Natalie. There is no easy way to say this, so I'd rather just say it like it is. Maybe about an hour and a half ago, I was sexually assaulted in my own home. It's not anything too major, but it doesn't matter if it's a small instance of sexual assault or something on a larger scale. The thing is, whatever it is, to whatever degree, it is still sexual assault. Maybe some of you guys were following my Instagram today when I talked about how the AC repair guy came into my house and I was looking like Doña Florinda with my pink curls in my hair. Anyway, so the guy comes in and that was, fine. He comes in. Like I said, it was a remote control thing, and he goes, gets a new remote control, and then he kind of just had to wait there to kind of like run some tests, and I was totally fine with that. I offered him some water. I still had my music playing. I still had like torolos in my hair. I was just wearing this dress, no makeup, whatever. We had some small talk like, how long have you been here? I was like, oh, 3 years. What do you do? I'm an English teacher. He asked me like, how old are you? I was like, oh, I'm 28. Technically in Korea, I'm 28. He's like, oh, chota. Kind of like, oh, must be nice type thing. So after that happened, once again, he just waited for the test to run. He was like, okay, I'm done. I was like, cool. All right, do you want some more water? Offered him another glass. He drank his water and he was like, okay, I'm done. He went to go like put his ladder back together. Then he like taps my shoulder like, bye. And I was like, yeah, bye. And then he went in to give me a hug. My immediate reaction was to put my hands up in front of my face and in front of my chest, my body. But I could feel his grip around me, and I tried to like push him back. And as I'm trying to push him back, he is trying to kiss me. He is pushing his face in my face, and I could feel like his force and his grip on my shoulders, and I finally just pushed him off. And at that moment, I was like, man, I really wanted to punch him, I wanted to kick him, I wanted to do something, but all I could say was, what the f-? The reason I'll get into a little bit later. And this was an older man in like his 50s. Like, what?
I'm going to interject here real quick and say that there might be some people who are watching this and after hearing what happened to me might be like, that's it. I had this response when I told some of my friends. For the most part, they were very supportive. I did have this one friend who, although was supportive, this one female friend, she told me like, well, what happened to you wasn't like such a big deal, right? And I was like, that is some type of bullshit. That is so sad that we as women have to think that way. That thought even crosses our mind. The fact like, oh, well, you know what? It's not like I was raped or anything. So like, thumbs up. I go, hey, that's fine. No. Because thinking that way, basically you're like, oh, well, you know what? I wasn't raped, so I'm not going to go to the police. I'm not going to report it. I'm not going to do anything about it. No, absolutely not. That way of thinking is just so wrong. And you know what? The severity of what happened to you does not validate or invalidate what actually happened to you. So if there's anyone who thinks that way, if there's anyone that wants to go in the comments and be like, oh, well, what happened to you wasn't such a big deal. I don't know why you're blowing this up. No. Let me save you the time. Exit out of this video, all right? Do something with your life. Go walk around the park. I don't know, because none of that is going to be welcomed here.
He just grabbed his, didn't look me in the eye, didn't even look my way, nothing. He didn't look at me or anything, I'm telling you. And he just dashed out of my apartment. My first thing was that I need to call a friend. So I called my friend Kat, and then he was ringing my doorbell because he left the old remote. And at that moment, I thought, okay, one of two things could happen. One, he could just get his remote and leave. Or two, once I opened that door, he could force himself on me. So I made sure I was on the phone with someone, and I made sure I was being very loud on the phone. I opened the door, give him the remote. He doesn't even look at me, nothing, doesn't look at me, just grabs it and leaves and goes towards the elevator. I'm like, what should I do? I'm like, I want to tell my building manager, but I can't speak Korean. But I still have my friend on the phone, and I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna go to him. And I took the curls out of my hair because I was like, he's gonna even think I'm even more crazy or something, I don't know. And I went towards the elevator. And of course, at the elevator, that guy was still there. I was just like, what the? And now we're gonna go into an enclosed space just with us two. But I still have my friend on the phone. But the thing is, when I go in the elevator, the phone connection always breaks off. Was hoping that it wouldn't this time. I'm just like at a corner, and I forgot to tell you this. In the middle of us talking and everything, this guy literally gave me his business card with his name on it. So that's what I had in my hand while I was going down the elevator. And I was like, I'm gonna tell the building manager, like, something has to happen. He's getting out of like my building. I just like, for whatever reason, I tried to like take a photo, and I went downstairs and the building manager isn't there. So now I'm just like, what the hell am I gonna do? So I went back upstairs and I called my sister, and I was like, I don't know if this is sexual harassment or if this is sexual assault. And she told me that what happened to me was sexual assault. The thing is, this is not the first time that this has happened to me, but this is the first time that this has happened to me in my own home. Previous apartments, I've had so many people come to my apartment to fix things or for whatever, you know, and I've always just been like, la 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 la, everything's fine. And maybe a part of me was like that because in my buildings, landlady, because I've always had a landlady, my landlady always was the person that called them. Maybe she knew the person, I don't know, but I guess there was always a sense of trust. So when I told you that I wanted to punch him, I wanted to kick him, I wanted to do something, but I couldn't, the reason being is that I am a foreigner here. I'm on a visa here. And when it comes to things with the police in Korea, as a foreigner, and this is gonna sound really harsh, but it's kind of like we're considered second-class citizens sometimes, because I've seen and I've heard and I've read of so many instances where it comes to a situation where it's a foreigner versus a Korean person and they take it to the police will always choose the Korean person's side, despite having all the facts, despite even having video. And being in Korea, which is so male dominated, I just kind of felt like if I were to punch him, if I were to kick him, and if I left any type of visible marks on his face or anything like that, then I could get deported. They can sue me and I could lose everything. That's why I decided not to do anything of that, and all I could do was just use my words. Like I've said, this isn't the first time that this has happened to me. Maybe I won't get into in this video, but I wanted to talk and to use this video not to scare you, not to scare anyone that's living in Korea, not to scare anyone who's thinking about living in Korea. This sort of thing can happen anywhere in the world, because you know what? You can always find men. And I know Korea is looked at as a very safe place, and for the most part it totally is. In America, there's like the catcalling and things like that. There's a bunch of other things in America that I would deem as not safe. Like if I wouldn't leave like my bag at a restaurant like and go off to the bathroom without anyone being there and checking it, or leave my bag at a coffee shop and, you know, even though I have like my camera and my wallet and my phone or whatever, like in Korea I could definitely do that because I know it'll be there. But in terms of sexual harassment or sexual assault, these are things that can happen anywhere. I'm not making this video to scare you, it's just to let you know that it can happen here too. I also wanted to kind of give you, I don't know, maybe some sort of solution, and I wish I had that, but I don't. All I could do right now is I called my co-teacher. He is going to come to my house and we're going to go to the police station and report it to police. This is not me being a pessimist, but I don't think, or I really just don't know if anything will come out of it. I mean, granted, I do have like his actual phone number, his place of work, the man who assaulted me, but I really don't know if anything could come of it, but at least I know I'm doing something. I'm not just being silent, because that is one thing that I wouldn't want to be. I want you to know that if anything were to happen to you, that go and do something about it, even if maybe that might not give me the results that I want. So now I'm just waiting for my co-teacher to come and we're gonna go ahead and do all of that. So hopefully, I guess I'll update you guys later. So it's now been just about over a year, like last Saturday. So something that I actually wanted to clear up is that when I stated that if I would hit him, I would basically be at fault and then like get deported. It's actually more like in Korea, if you assault the aggressor more, you now become the aggressor. So it's basically whoever gets beat up most or worse is guilty, is the aggressor. So it's better just to avoid it in general. So, okay, so here's what happened afterwards. I have everything written down on my laptop because there's no way I was gonna remember everything. For the most part, I want to say I kept my composure the whole time. Even when my coworker picked me up, he was like, "I'm so sorry that this happened to you," and I was like, "I've been through worse," and things like that. And then when we got to the police station, we actually were sent to a private room with a female. I don't know if she was like an officer because she wasn't wearing like a uniform or anything, or I don't know if she was like specifically for like these kind of situations or anything, but it was like a private room. But she spoke minimal English, so it was good that I brought my coworker because he was able to interpret everything. And so she asked when the assault happened, and I told her, I was like, "Oh, just about an hour ago." And she was surprised and glad that it came in so quickly because she knows that women can wait a long time, and especially for these situations, time is very, very important. I basically gave her all the details, even more detail than what I told you in the video, because as I was telling her, little other things started coming up and I started remembering some other things. She asked me if in my apartment do I have CCTV, if I knew the man, and I told her I had no idea who this guy was. I had never seen him beforehand. And then I also showed his business card. She was really surprised that I had his number, because she's like, that's just really, basically dumb of him to think he would get away with something like this when I have his information. I was like, yeah, I don't know what he was thinking either. After the initial report, which was just me just telling my story with some minimal questions from her, she told me my options were to sue him. And now, I'm from the States, so suing someone is a big deal. When you sue someone, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, just overall very tiring. This could stretch out for a really long time. I was like, I was really taken aback when she told me that. I don't have the money to go ahead and sue someone and hire a lawyer and all these things. Plus, what I was scared for was if I took him to court, then he would then sue me for defamation. And these type of cases happen a lot in Korea. I'm a foreigner and a woman, and the odds of winning are basically 0 to nothing. She explained to me, while there was a possibility that he could sue me, even if he did, the facts don't really add up as to why I would falsely accuse him. Number one, I've never met him before. There's nothing that we have in common in terms of jobs, so it's not like I was trying to undermine his job or his business. I'm a foreigner. I had to bring my coworker to help me interpret. So this whole situation was just very inconvenient for me just to want to go through, So even if it were that he was trying to sue me, it would be unlikely that he would win because the facts just don't add up in his favor. Then she, made me understand that if I were to go ahead and do this, I would have to be 1,000% sure that I want to sue him, because once the investigation starts, they cannot stop it. And for a lot of women that these things happen to, they'll say yes to the initial, like, okay, I want to sue him, but then they'll end up wanting to back out because the investigation could be a bit intrusive depending on the situation. And I told her that I understand, because it's like they're going through everything again and again, and depending on how long it takes, it can be so exhausting. At this point is when I just started crying, and I was just crying, and it was a little bit embarrassing to do that in front of my coworker, honestly. I had kept it pretty together for this whole time. After composing myself for a moment, I wanted to talk to my sister that I initially called to ask her, like, what just happened to me. I explained to her situation, and even she was like, isn't suing a little bit too much? Which I thought that as well. That was the only option that they gave me. So then from there, a detective came in, and he came in to explain more in detail about how the suing process would be like. So they told me that the police would actually provide me and assign me a lawyer and interpreter, so I didn't have to pay anything. And I was like, wait, what? So I explained that to my sister, and as I'm explaining this to her, I'm just like, I still didn't know whether I really wanted to do this, because if I did sue him, what if he has to pay all this money that he can't afford? What if I'm breaking up his family, breaking up his children, just everything, and like I could be hurting other people as well. And so my sister was like, it's not your responsibility to think about that. This is what he himself should have thought about before doing this. And I was like, exactly, man. Like, why should I take on the responsibility of thinking for someone who did something like this to me? Like, Then I asked again to the detective, like, what really would be my options. And he's like, well, if you don't sue him, then you came in to write this report, and that's it. So I'm like, okay, yeah, then let's sue this. I went back to finish a report, and then they told me that they would assign an interpreter, and whenever that person was available, I would come in. I would do like another report. It was more like an interview, like questioning type things. They also did this for me, which I really appreciated. They assigned police cars to be stationed at my apartment for either the week or the weekend. I forgot which one, just because the guy knows where I live, so just to be extra careful. Now, despite everything that happened on that day, it was my friend's birthday, and we were all meeting up in the park to have like a nice little picnic. And you know what? I still went, because me if I let that freak control my life. No, boo. Like, that guy does not have the power over me to control my life like that. No, man. My coworker actually told me when he dropped me off back home, he's like, I really think you should go and meet with your friends. He's like, I really don't want you to stay at home. He actually called up to check on me a couple times just to make sure that I wasn't in my house and make sure that I made it to my friend's house. I just thought that was really nice. The one that helped me, he's a male co-teacher. It's like when he dropped me off, he's like, I have to tell everything to your main co-teacher because like she's your handler and everything. And I was like, yeah, no worries. I understand that. So when I went into work, the next Monday, my main co-teacher, she's like, I'm so sorry for what happened. And then I found out that she told the vice principal and principal about it. And I was like, what? They called me into their office apologizing for what had happened to me, telling me if I needed anything just to let them know. And then they also told me that the government program that I'm in, they also know. And I was just like, what? And they're like, yeah, we had to tell them. Then later SMOE called me and asked me if I needed anything from them and like what they could do to help me. And I told them like, hey, I talked with the police, we're doing a whole investigation, and that was that. So then I was assigned an interpreter, and the next week I came in again with my main co-teacher this time and went through this whole like interview questioning process. The woman who was taking everything down was the same woman from the previous initial report. The questions were very, very specific, asking me what time exactly did he come into my apartment, what exactly did I do when he was there, how did I feel when he had like embraced me. And I had to explain to the person that was writing this down, I was like, technically it was like a hug. A hug sounds so nice, and what he did was not nice. So I just had to let them know, I'm like, I'm calling it a hug, embrace, but it's not what you think, you know what I'm saying? And throughout the whole time, or I made sure that it was clear that yes, in fact, I was scared. What I was telling them, there wasn't like a lot of instances of me like, oh, I was just crying, in a ball and just like da 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 da. I know, and they should know that everyone processes shock differently. I just wanted them to know that. And with that, they had asked me like, why did I open the door the second time? If I was so scared, why didn't I go back into my apartment when I saw him at the elevator? I don't believe, or I don't want to believe, that they were asking me these questions because they doubted me. More so they were just doing this because they wanted to cover all their bases. I told her, was like, yeah, I was really scared, but I couldn't just start crying or hide in my apartment because I wanted to keep my composure. Me personally, I had more of a fight or flight response. I wanted to take action now. So even though I saw him at the elevator, I wasn't like just gonna scurry back in. I was like, I gotta go talk to someone now. They actually ended up pulling up all the CCTV that they could from my place. They came up with the like exact timeline. When seeing like the pictures and everything, she asked me like, is this you? And I was like, yeah, that's me. A woman had told me that they would be filing this under sexual harassment and not sexual assault. In Korea, if there's no penetration of any kind in anywhere in any place, it's not considered sexual assault, which I was like, sure, that's fine. And at the end of the whole report, pressed my thumb into like red ink, and I had to like go and put my thumbprint on every page. I'm going on the record, what I said is true. From there, they explained to me now this whole thing would be sent to the assigned detective on this case, and then they would go ahead and actually see the guy who assaulted me. It really depends if he says he's guilty or not of the charges. Going to set up the timeline for how the whole thing is going to be, if it was going to be an open or a closed trial, if it had to go and testify and things like that. We actually heard back from the police about a month later with the news that the guy had actually pled guilty to the charges, which I was so relieved because that meant that I wouldn't have to be going in to testify or anything, but I would have, because like him, man, like no. So everything would be sent to the prosecutor, and then thus my camera stopped recording. And then from there, we didn't hear from them for a while, which I wasn't like too worried because I know how long trials can take. In September, I believe, I asked my co-teacher, did we ever hear anything back from like the police? Like what happened? She contacted the police and they said that they didn't know anything because once they handed it over to the prosecutor's office, everything was there. So they gave her the prosecutor's number. She tried to get in contact with the prosecutor, but finally he got back to us. And so he actually told her that the trial, the investigation, everything had actually concluded. Everything was finished. So yeah, so this was his sentencing. The trial date happened in August. The whole thing took about 3 or 4 months to conclude, which is really, really quick because the defendant didn't appeal. He just had pled guilty. He got jail time for 6 months. And then after his jail time, he was on probation for 2 months. And yeah, that is what he got. I was really relieved. When I told my elder sister about what happened, the first thing that she asked me was like, why didn't you call 911? And I was like, honestly, it hadn't even crossed my mind. Maybe I forgot because Korea is generally safe, or maybe I didn't call them because of how many stories I've heard of just how the police just never help out foreigners or just never really help out. But I shouldn't think that way, and you shouldn't think that way. There are so many stories of how the police suck here. But you know what? There are officers who do their jobs diligently, who genuinely want to help you. And like, I am so happy that I did report. I'm so happy that my coworker was like, no, Natalie, we are going to the police. I hadn't gone. You know how I would have felt that I didn't do that? I can say that I actually got justice, you know? I know my circumstances are a little bit different. You can't just give up hope and just be like, oh, well, you know, nothing's gonna come out of it. You know, just going to police would be useless. No, man, useless would be not doing anything, not trying. What you can do is file a report, go to the police. Something did something to you, and you should try to get some of that back. And the last thing that I want to say is actually in the interview questioning process, they had asked me like, why did you come here today? Why did you come to do this investigation? And I was like, because what he did was wrong. If I don't say anything, what's stopping him from doing it again? Nothing. I could have been the first or the sixth person foreigner that he could have done this to. I have no idea. I don't know if he did this to Korean women, and being in the type of culture Korean culture is, I feel like they're losing face if they have to tell their loved ones that something like this happened to them. So I came here to show him he can't think he can get away with something like this. I didn't just make up a whole speech, okay? So I did tell her, because like when I was telling her about the Korean women part, she was just like, yeah, that's true. In our culture, you know, sometimes we don't want to say anything because it is embarrassing. And I was like, well, he picked the wrong foreigner because your girl is out here. Alright, homies. So down below, I'm going to leave some links that maybe will be of any resource to you or someone that you know that has gone or is going through something like this. Again, I need to really stress, please report. Even if it turns out that the police station is, at least you know you tried, that you did something. At the end of the day, you should never let someone take that power away from you. You know, the links will be there, and just in general, just to keep you informed. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I said this, I'm pretty sure I said this in the other video, but I didn't make this video to scare anyone. Just wanted to inform you guys. I hope this can help you in any way, whether it's to find peace or to feel empowered. Okay, stay safe, homies. I'll catch you guys in the next one. I hope you're having a great day. Bye.